Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Ask ServiceMonster show, where you've got questions about your service business and we've got your answers. Today's question comes from Brian. He wants to know a little bit about competitors, what we think about them. He's getting some conflicting information from some of the gurus he's following and wants to know my position on it. Guru says what? Focus on your business only, ignore the competition, and you'll win. Ignoring your competition is dumb. Obsessing over it, dumb too, and I'll get to that in a moment, but ignoring your competition puts you at a distinct disadvantage. If you're ignoring your competition, how do you know how your prospects and potential clients see them against you? How do you know when they're offering a new or better type of service that maybe you haven't heard about yet? Don't ignore your competition, stay mindful. Pay attention to them only as much as you need to understand how the market sees the two of you. Your only true competitor is yourself, and this is just true for almost everything you do. Iterative cycles are the best way to make massive improvements over a long period of time. And you'll make those improvements little bit by little bit, but only when you're competing against yourself. Setting yourself up as a competitor is pretty easy, but takes some work. You have to understand your key performance indicators, what those numbers are and what they mean. You've got to be running reports constantly, making sure that you're tracking above or below statistics that you've done last period, whether it's this time last month or last quarter or last year. So understanding the differences and racing against yourself is the best way to judge competition, because you're actually playing against yourself in that arena, and that's just wise. Think about it like this. You've may have played those video games, like car racing games are a good example, where they'll actually have a ghost image of yourself on your second or third lap, or maybe when you go back and try the event again. And in that case, you are indeed racing directly against yourself as you raced that race several minutes or days ago. Business is the same way. You want to ghost self, whether it's last period or last year, and you want to be constantly measuring yourself up to that competitor. Guru says what? Crush your competition, business is war. Fact. Unless you live in a vacuum, your success comes at the expense of a competitor. That's definitely true. But you don't want to focus on them. You don't want your mission to be putting them out of business. Simon Sinek put it best. He's a speaker who talks at Google and Microsoft, talks on business and leadership, has written a couple books. I suggest you go check him out. He's a pretty intellectual and heady guy. He's not the motivational type, but he's got really good practical knowledge and experience about leadership. And one of the things that he had said was he had done an educational conference for both Google and Microsoft. Microsoft actually spent 70% of the speakers spent 70% of their content talking about how they were going to beat Apple in this educational space. When Simon went to the Apple educational conference, 0% of the speakers spent 0% of their time on Microsoft. They were executing on their vision. And to end the story there makes sense. It's a cute little anecdote, but it gets even better. He got to ride in a taxi with one of the Google executives, maybe like number 12 or 13. And he had received from Microsoft a Zune at the time the iTouch was out, the Zune was out. It was an incredible device. I mean, if you looked at the technology at the time, it's something that they actually beat Apple on. And he had ribbed him about it. He's like, you know, this Zune thing, man, is seriously better than your iTouch. Thinking that he'd get a reaction and have a nice long discussion. And the dude simply turned to him and said, I have no doubt. It really points out the fact that Apple wasn't really focused on Microsoft. They were mindful, they knew what was going on, but they were focused on executing their vision, as you should be and your business should be as well. Obsessing over your competition helps to establish them as a leader. Don't do that. You put yourself directly behind them and you find yourself chasing them all the time. That's not where you want to be, especially in the market. There is no winning in business. You really want to focus on that infinite game. You can't lose if you never drop out of the race. And ServiceMonster may have 7 competitors in our wake, but it is not the direct result of anything that we did. They were simply just not had all the skills and tools necessary to survive, and in some cases they were playing the short game, trying to win that short-term prize, those transactions, weren't focused on the long game and servicing their clients and building and growing and improving their products, and so eventually the markets just swallow them up. When you're playing the infinite game and you're playing against yourself and your own vision, then you can't lose, because you'll never, ever, ever quit. Now, what you really do need to understand is how the market sees you versus your competition. As a client or prospect, as they start to explore the products and services that you offer, and they're looking at different providers that can fulfill that solution, you need to understand how you are situated in that market. Are you differentiating yourself? In order to understand that, of course, you're going to have to pay attention to them a little bit, understand where they are in the marketplace, what products and services they're offering, what price points they're offering at, understanding the lay of the battlefield, maybe even understanding how they acquire their clients, where their advertising is strong. What you're doing is looking for areas that they are strong in so that you can improve yourself in those areas, and looking for areas that they're weak in so you can use those and leverage those in your marketing campaigns to help differentiate yourself. Guru says what? Stay in your lane. A whole bunch of bullshit if you ask me. If you're going to differentiate yourself, you got to get out of your lane. If you do the same thing everyone else is doing, then there's no differentiation at all. And we get accused of this sometimes, right? Like, we should stick to what we know. Well, they're all my lane. We know them all. We do these shows because we have the vast experience of $380 million of orders processed last year and serving over more than 1 million jobs. That data, those conversations that we have with dozens of companies every day, hundreds of companies every week, doing exactly what you're doing, has given us the insight over these last 14 years to be able to offer credible advice. And of course, it may not pertain to everybody in every situation, but generally speaking, it's the stuff that we've seen work over that period of time in those years. So again, differentiating yourself from your competition means standing out, putting a target on yourself, doing things completely different than the way they've done before or the way that they're doing it. It's not just an excellent level of customer service or that extra effort that you go putting the booties on in the home or doing the extra good cleaning job. It really is about making yourself completely unique. A lot of times you'll see competition follow you, copycatters, right? Anything you do, they'll copy. And sometimes that's frustrating, I get it, but if they're doing that, they're recognizing you as the leader. That's powerful. And your prospects and clients can see it that way as well. I'm not saying that all of them will, but a lot of them will see that, hey, these guys are always kind of out in front doing that thing first, and they're innovative. So I understand that they're kind of the go-to people in the market. Now, when competition follows you closely, you have an interesting opportunity. If you have established yourself as a bit of a media company, like I suggest for brand building, especially social media, blogging, vlogging, like all of those things, and you've been doing those on a regular basis, you have the attention of the prospects and clients in your demographic. You can use that a little bit to your advantage, getting competitors who you know are following you a little too closely, a little bit of information that can help dictate maybe decisions they make. Once you've done that, you've established that, it's actually frightfully easy to influence their decisions in their business while you're still executing on yours. I see you. Everything great that has ever happened has been a direct result of competition. There are no participation trophies in business, and you can actually use your competition to help you win. Look, you'll never run as fast as you will when you have a worthy competitor running side by side. That 40-yard dash may have another 0.2 of a second cut off because the guy beside you was just neck and neck with you the whole way, right? It's incredibly empowering and actually invigorating to have a worthy competitor next to you running that same race. I look at it like this. There's a handful of different buckets I put my competition in. The first one is aspirational. These guys are doing well above where I'm at, and I want to focus on them only to learn what they're doing. How did they get there? What marketing mechanisms did they use? The quality of their products and services. Like, what was the system, the mechanics they used to do so good. And these guys don't even have to be in your same market, right? You can look at aspirational competition nationally. And of course, they're not really going to be your competition, but you get the idea. They're providing a same service and work with a similar business structure, but they're 10xing you, right? They're doing the $10 million business, or you struggling to meet that 1 million. What are they doing differently? Using them as leverage to kind of pave the way. It's a good idea. The second type I like to recognize is direct competitors. These are guys directly in your demographic, targeting your same clients. And for the most part, I've got great respect for these guys. You might sit and have a beer with them, and you'll chat about the environment and talk about the fact that there's probably enough business to go around. But at the end of the day, you might run some competitive ads against them, maybe offering specials. It's business, not a big deal. As long as you're not speaking negatively about your competition or putting their name in your mouth outside of a standard offer or special, then there's really nothing to be worried about there. And again, you can shake hands and talk about business, and you're not trying to do them in, you're just trying to fight for that market share. The third type I recognize is the up-and-comers. So these are guys where you are their aspiration, right? So you've already 10x'd and they're just getting started, or maybe they're running a $200,000 business and you've obtained a $2 million cash flow. In this case, we're really not paying too much attention to them. Chances are the little guys, the new guys, are going after the lower end of the market. You should be continually establishing yourself higher and higher so that hourly conversion, that hourly price that you're making, continues to go up. And sometimes you'll even help them out, right? This is what associations and so forth about. Again, it's recognizing for the most part the playing field is big enough where there's room at all levels, and serving different niches. You may not want that $99 apartment cleaning anymore. And both aspirational and up-and-comers can be leveraged to trade work. Sometimes the up-and-comer will get a job that's just too big. They don't have the dehues and air movers for it. They don't have the crew. And so having that relationship, maybe they'll kick you the job. And likewise, if you get a price shopper that comes in that really needs a bottom cleaning and you don't want to mess with it, kick it to the up-and-comer, right? So different ways that you can leverage your competition. And in all three cases, the aspirational, the direct competitor, and the up-and-comer deserve your respect. There are business owners just like you trying to put food on the table, and yeah, you are competing, and sometimes they'll win and sometimes you'll win, especially if you're playing that infinite game. But it's that competition that's going to constantly better yourself and make you grow. Now, the fourth competitor I like to recognize are the charlatans. These guys are the price shoppers, the transactional dudes, the bait and switch people. They don't have the client's best interest at heart, and in fact, they will sometimes try to steal or pull the wool over their eyes or do things in your business that you find morally reprehensible. And I'm not talking about things that are in the gray area, like advertising a special against your competitor. I'm talking about just all and out lies. Sure, Mrs. Jones, this is totally organic, natural chemicals, and next thing you know, our parakeet dies. You get the idea. You know about these types of companies. I'm sure you know about them in the vendor space as well as the competitor space in your area. Now, they hold a special place in my heart because while I won't go after them directly with the intent of trying to sink them, I will occasionally put marbles on the floor and help them change their direction or change their business process. The general idea here is I just want to squeeze them out. Like, they have no room there. There is no room for charlatans within the marketing demographic because it brings the whole industry down. It brings the whole opinion of the market down, and it's just bad news for everybody. Look, using competition as a tool to make yourself better, you want to look at where you're losing. You're going to get punched in the mouth every once in a while. Use that as fuel to figure out where you can improve your business. And again, from the perspective of the market. You're not focused on what the competitor thinks about you or where your pricing is in relation to his. What you care about is when that prospect looks you up and sees the two of you, how are they going to compare and what demographic is going to choose you over them and vice versa. And it's better to burn out than to rust out, right? And so we get complacent. When there's no competition and no one's there, we just kind of do our thing. We don't necessarily move as fast as we could. We don't invest in the things that we need to put time and money into. We don't continually make our product better in the same way we can as if we're competing with somebody. So, again, burn out, don't rust out, full throttle the whole time, not complacency. And punch up. Like, again, use those aspirational guys to really drive your business forward. Iterative cycles, walk, crawl, it doesn't matter. Just continue making those improvements. Okay, guys, wrapping up, 3 points here. Number 1, focus on yourself as your biggest competitor. Number 2, pay attention to the battlefield and keep in mind where the market sees you in your position. And number 3, look at your competition as a tool to help you improve your business, not as some nefarious force that needs to be destroyed. Until the next time, kids, subscribe to our YouTube channel, go check out the demo, give us a call.